Our education system is mostly very rote-driven kind of an education system where there is a lot of emphasis on swallow and vomit kind of methodology, and we believe that that needs to change. And government is taking multiple initiatives to change that.
Thank you for finding us. Like us, you are the growing gang of curious people keen to understand what the future holds. I, Eddie Ivu, am your host for the Change I Am Possible podcast, a platform in a community for disruptors, innovators, entrepreneurs, change, policymakers, impact investors, and dreamers such as yourself working on shaping a coming tomorrow. My effort will be to probe and ask the most contextual and relevant questions, answers that add value, even at the risk of being judged. The fourth industrial revolution is upon us, and exponential technology stands to disrupt all industry verticals. The choice we make today will chart the trajectory of a civilization. Future demands us to be brave and bold, so let's walk together as one into this new world, a world of all-encompassing possibilities, leveraging technology, the tool that's redefining what it means to be a human. So let's challenge a traditional linear mindset. Let's challenge the word impossible, because if you break it down, the word itself says, I am possible. So let's dive into the future with a guest for the day. Dr. Abhay Jere is the first Chief Innovation Officer of the Ministry of Human Resource Development's Innovation Cell. He fosters innovation and entrepreneurship among students and has been the driving force behind India's biggest innovation melas such as Inclusive Innovation Plus, Smart India Hackathon, Goa Idea and Innovation Competition, and Digital Pune Hackathon. He's a passionate educator with a mission to ignite young minds into becoming problem-solving entrepreneurs. Wish you enjoy this conversation. Thank you for joining Change I Am Possible podcast. Sincerely appreciate this. It's a pleasure and honor to have you over here. So you're the first Chief Innovation Officer at the Ministry of HRD. So can you please describe your role? What do you do? What is the agenda?
Our education system is mostly very rote-driven kind of an education system where there is a lot of emphasis on swallow and vomit kind of methodology, and we believe that that needs to change. And government is taking multiple initiatives to change that and actually move that culture towards innovation, entrepreneurship, ideation. So that is where, which will result in higher order thinking skills, problem solving skills. So from that perspective, this innovation cell was created at Ministry of HRD, Government of India, which is supported by All India Council for Technical Education. So we are hosted at All India Council for Technical Education, and our agenda is to ensure how we can create a vibrant innovation ecosystem within our educational institutions. So that's what our primary agenda is, through multiple aspects, through policy interventions, through handholding these institutions, as well as through competitions like Smart India Hackathons and grand challenges and those kind of things, ideation competitions, and then measure the outcome of the intervention what we are trying to do in terms of innovation index, whether there is a change in mindset or culture in these educational institutes. So we also do that.
Right. So there's Thomas Frey. He's a global futurist. He's among the top global futurists. So he thinks that education is completely ripe for disruption, especially India's rote learning education system, which it somehow puts blinders on. So there's 50 or 100 students, and they're just meant to look at the blackboard, just do that. It's just learning, ratta maro, and then you give your exams, and which is not adding value, right? And somehow the education system, I mean, right now, with the help of technology, there's something called as MOOCs, massive open online courses. Education is free, right? There is so much of education which is available free of cost. Nobody has to pay for it. Or the only thing that you need is desire and intent.
Very true.
right? So, according to Mr. Frey, he thinks that the education system is the brick and mortar education system is going to go down,
Yes.
and there's going to be a rise of the digitization of education.
Right.
What are your views on that?
So to some extent, it is correct. And now we are moving in area of more personalized education or adaptive education. But at the end of the day, what we really need to ensure, whether it's a digitized education or whether it's a rote learning kind of an education, methodologies will certainly change. But what we wish to create through our efforts is that we want to create a generation of problem solvers. And if we want to do that, then whether the education is delivered through digital or through books, the methodology or pedagogy which is involved has to go through a considerable change. Uh, so that we actually inculcate habit into students of identifying problems and solving it. We need to work on their cognitive skills. We need to work on their design thinking skills. We need to work on their communication skills. So these are the things on which we as ministry will focus on. More importantly, now the new education policy is also coming in next 2 or 3 months. You will see that the education policy will be out. The draft was put out last June, and for that draft we received more than 2 lakh comments from across India. So our officers, especially our secretary, worked really very hard on going through those comments, understanding them, segregating them. And now those comments will be incorporated. Those suggestions will be incorporated into new education policy. And this new education policy is now moving in the direction of actually ensuring that problem solving skills of students will go up. They are trying to break these silos of science, arts, and commerce. Now they will be allowing a person to who is doing mathematics also to do liberal arts and those kind of things. So some radical changes are really going to happen, and we will soon have that draft. I will not talk about the final draft because it will go to cabinet and then it will get into public domain. But yes, there are some substantial changes which we hope to have. But not just waiting for the new education policy. We believe that if India has to go for a $5 trillion economy, which our honorable Prime Minister is saying, then we need to create a large number of startups or enterprises from this country, which are disruptive in nature. One. Second, we need to create a lot of job creators because 65% of our youth is still below age of 35. So we need to give them work. We need to give them employment. So if we have to create more and more employment, we have to create more and more enterprises. We need to create more and more people who are entrepreneurial in nature.
Right.
And the entire focus is on that direction now. How we can create large amount of startups, how we can help these startups to sustain, how we can create manpower which will be useful for these startups, how what should be the culture in this country for as far as ease of doing business is concerned, and so on and so forth. So there is huge emphasis, there is huge focus on these aspects. And now education system, employability, skills, they will actually go hand in hand so that we create the generation which we wish to ensure.
So you mentioned radical changes in the new education policy. Yes, I guess, I mean, we living in a time where things are no longer growing at the linear pattern. Everything is exponential, And yes, you rightfully said that, you need to inculcate the problem solving appetite right from the base, right? And you also mentioned personalized education. When you said personalized education, do you would you also seek or look at technology, because there are already right now tutors which is AI driven tutors where there are personalized AI tutors for use, personal tutors. There is also technology such as virtual reality which really helps in the retention of education, because rote learning education system is killing our education system. With virtual reality, instead of just reading, you'll start experiencing your content, so would or is technology going to be
So you have
part of
asked a
the
very you have asked a very good question, and the answer is absolutely yes. Okay, emphatic yes.
Yeah, okay.
So recently we launched a scheme called as NEAT, National Education Alliance on Technology. So what we have realized is there are a large number of startups who have developed educational products using machine learning approach, artificial intelligence approach, even IR based, VR based products which are there, and these companies used to routinely approach us for help because the technologies are great, their concepts are great, their products are great, but they were not getting the right customer base, right penetration, market access, and those kind of things. So what we used to do is, as ministry or as AICTE, All India Council for Technical Education, we used to ask them for pro bono licensing support or pro bono support. So we used to sign MOUs with these technology companies, and then we used to ask for some free products from them, which we used to give it to students. But then, so good companies, very well established companies can do that. But there are a large number of startups with very interesting ideas. They cannot do things pro bono because for them survival has to be the first aspect or first important thing. So we came up with this neat initiative where we said we will directly partner with you. We will identify products, good products. We will endorse those good products. We will partner them, help them grow. Actually, we will promote them through all our mechanisms as MHRD. And if we help them sell, then 25% of that has to be free, which we will actually give it to lower socio-eco strata. Students from aspirational districts, students from lower socio-eco status, EBC backgrounds, and so as per government norms, SCSTs and those. So what we believe is that these products which are based on artificial intelligence and machine learning approaches, which help student in personalized or adaptive learning. So every student is at a different level. When you teach a lesson, some people absorb it 20%, some people absorb 50%, some students absorb it 80%. So everyone has a different level. So we want these products, or we have identified these products which are capable of identifying the level of that student, and then from there actually take it forward. So there was a big advertisement in newspaper in that regard. About initially 360 companies participated in it, and then we had 3 rounds of screening, and now we have shortlisted about 16 companies, 30 products, and soon we will be actually signing MOUs with these companies and take things forward. So government is very, very active in ensuring or proactive in ensuring that students should now get best of the tools uh, in their hand to ensure that they move away from this rote learning kind of a methodology to problem solving kind of a mindset.
So it's estimated that in another 5 years, millions are going to go jobless because of technology, right? And reskilling is the big term. Everybody is talking about the reskilling, right? Not just from the enterprise, even the students. Now, when reskilling, you're talking about reskilling, it's expensive. When you want to reskill, that means either you educate, go back and educate yourself completely. It's expensive, whether it's for the students or whether it's for those people who are into business. Why can't we from now think about the future and how it's going to impact us and start looking at those technology or those things rather than wasting time on reskilling and spending so much money? Why can't we just skill ourselves correctly?
So again, it's a very good question. So I will break this question into two parts. One is what we are offering for future generations as students. Second, what we need to do who are already educated through our existing systems and are in their mid 30s or 30 mid 40s. So what we see, especially when it comes to IT and other areas, the people who are in mid 35s or 40s, 45, in that range, they are a bit outdated as in terms of technology, because as you know, the technology is changing or evolving really at a very rapid pace. So for them, reskilling is really going to be important, because these people are with a family, maybe a kid or couple of kids, a house and an EMI, a car and an EMI, and if they suddenly lose jobs, then it will create havoc. So for them, reskilling is really very important. And what we believe is that as they have worked for 10 or 15 years in industry, they can always go back to school, although it may be a bit expensive, as you rightly said, but they can afford that. More importantly, government is also coming up with platforms, MOOC platforms like Swayam.
Right.
So it's a completely free platform. And professors from IITs, NITs, best of the people are really offering courses on Swayam. If you see last month's figure, we had 1.3 crore to 1.4 crore registered users on Swayam. It's a big number.
Right.
So reskilling and NASCOM and other people are really involved in big way to explore what's the how to reskill in what areas. So that's certainly happening, and we cannot say we cannot reskill them or we should not reskill them.
Right.
We have to reskill them. The second part is youngsters, the courses which we are offering right now. Whether we need to actually ensure that these courses are evolved or these courses are modified so that they actually fit the requirement or the foreseen future. Yes. So AICTE, All India Council for Technical Education, has already set up a big committee to look into the futuristic requirements. For example, how many students you will require in area of cloud computing or blockchain or artificial intelligence. So what we are trying to at AICTE also do is that whether we should give those courses as a degree course or a postgraduate diploma course or a postgraduate degree course like ME or MTech, or it should be PGDM. So all these thinking is happening at AICTE level. There's a very serious committee which has already constituted. They are almost meeting every month to look into it. And they are also giving some recommendations. Some interim recommendations are already given by them on what kind of courses we will require for our from a futuristic perspective. So AICT has now stopped giving approval to conventional courses and they will now be more focusing on these non-conventional or futuristic courses to ensure that our manpower gets developed in right fashion. I will give you an example. A few days back, I was in US, in Silicon Valley, talking to MD of Amazon. So he leads entire Amazon cloud,
Right.
Amazon cloud
Right.
function. And he told me that in last 3 years, globally, there were around 5 to 6 million jobs in area of cloud computing. Which and there were no manpower available for
Right.
that.
Right.
So we are also trying to get these kind of inputs,
Right.
not just from India but across the globe, on what kind of manpower we will require. Our PSA, Dr. Vijay Raghavan, Principal Scientific Advisor to Prime Minister, he is really actively tracking these changes and is actively interacting with people, proactively exploring the possibility of what we require and how we can set those things in motion, that process in motion, so that we can train our students.
Lovely. So that data, when you get that kind of data that there's around 5 or 6 million jobs over there in cloud computing, if that goes out and if you skill people in that direction, that would be so awesome. So, to make India future ready, you need to take everyone along. And thanks to Geo, thanks to the government, right now, I think with the help of internet, I think more and more people are getting aware about the world, because information is knowledge. And with your basic device, which is your phone, it's almost like a mini computer. You know about the world. The people in the interiors are now knowing about what's going around the world. They're building some really cool things, because I just saw a recent video. There are these guys, entrepreneurs in the village, rural areas, doing some really cool thing. What is the government doing to make them inclusive into the fold? Because right now, it's the ones who afford these big education. They are the ones who are doing IB education and things like that. When there are countries like UK which is offering free education. Education should be the birthright. So what is the government doing about that?
So I agree with almost everything what you said. Government is doing multiple efforts at multiple level to ensure that the creativity of the students or youngsters are not killed. On the contrary, how it can be handholded, supported, taken forward. For example, at school level, now government has set up large number of tinkering labs in schools through Atal Innovation Mission. So you will be surprised to see that 3D printers, laser cutting machines, or lathe machines and those kind of things are now available at school level, where students can go work with those in their free time. They are training teachers also to ensure that those things happen. Because of that effort, large number of companies, as part of their CSR activities, have also started creating tinkering labs
Right.
in the institutes which don't have Atal tinkering labs. So that culture has already started moving forward. One. Second, we are pushing large number of institutions to do idea competitions. For example, when I was in school, there was nothing called as idea
Yeah, yeah.
competitions. But for example, I will give you. On 11th of September, when we had some program at AICTE in Delhi, I appealed to colleges that let's celebrate 15th of October, which is birth anniversary of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, our beloved ex-president, as National Innovation Day.
Yeah.
And I was so thrilled when we started getting data. More than 1,000 institutions actually celebrated that. About 1,600 initiatives were done on that day just for promoting innovation, entrepreneurship within those institutions. And large number of these colleges actually went to schools also within their vicinity, talking about innovation, why creativity is important, why ideation is important, and so on and so forth. So government is very serious about promoting this, and we are taking every possible efforts from a policy angle as well as intervention hand holding also to ensure that this culture now spreads. And I'm pretty sure in next couple of years you will see a different picture in our education institution.
Last night, I do remote podcasts also, because I realize that, the world is getting smaller and smaller, because technology is enabling that, right? You don't really need to sit now face to face. You could do remote podcasts with people around the world. So I was having a conversation with this guy called Vic Parthiban. Vic Parthiban is ex Magic Leap. Magic Leap is one of the companies which is was the forefront with augmented reality. It was a $4 billion company. I mean, that's the kind of funding that they got without having a prototype, right? And he was also part of Hyperloop 2 competition, which won at the SpaceX program. Now, if you see, somehow most of our brilliant minds are being exported abroad, right? You have Satya Nadella heading Microsoft, you have Pichai heading Google, there's Adobe, and there's so many other companies with Indian names. Why is this progression of our greatest minds going abroad, and when do you think we'll see a Indian tech global company?
I think we will see that very soon. I don't know whether you saw a recent report published by Your Story on funding raised by Indian startups. And I was very glad to see that report because according to that report, in last 9 months, Indian startups have raised about $8 billion from foreign investors. So I don't think we are very far now from actually creating companies which will go global. So the right kind of environment or the right kind of push is there. Now, I, I still believe that yes, our ecosystem is still maturing. We need to have more investment in deep tech startups, which is very, very critical. But yes, we are moving in that direction. And again, I'm very, very hopeful that in next 3 to 5 years, you will see some real mega products coming out of this country which will have global applications.
Lovely. Yeah, we're waiting to see something like that because, we are a huge country, 1.3 billion, diverse culture. And right now, I think we're the best point of time in history where I think it's just a desire and intent. If you have a desire to build something, you can be an entrepreneur. Because all the resources are available, and there are people like yourself, the government, which is providing support. So on the support, you talked about idea competition. So you were the one who was front running with Digital Pune Hackathon, Smart India Hackathon, Innovation Cell. So can you talk something about that?
So when we started doing hackathons in this country, Hackathons were mostly considered to be IT private companies doing or private companies initiative for ideation or for hiring. None of the country was trying to use this methodology to solve local problems or social problems. So we asked ourselves that whether we can use hackathons or hackathon methodology to actually connect students with nation building. We wanted to ensure that students connect with our own problems, with our national problems, and try offering solutions to these problems. So we conceptualized this Smart India Hackathon initiative with support from our Honorable Prime Minister. We wrote to all ministries for the first year, central government ministries, and asked them to share their problems. So 26 ministries participated, from ISRO to Department of Atomic Energy to Ministry of Railways to Ministry of Road Transport. And they gave us anywhere between 5 problems to 20 problems. So we collated those problems and extremely interesting problem statements. And we challenged students. Can you offer a solution for this? And the response which we got was phenomenal. In first year, we had about 40,000 students participating. Wow. And from 1,600 plus institutions. And on the first year itself, it became world's biggest hackathon. So in next year, that number become bigger. We had 1 lakh students. On third year, that is 2019, when we did it in March, we had 2 lakh students from 2,200 institutions. Almost each and every technical institution in India participated. And when we spoke to these students, that what this hackathon experience gave them, we were really surprised with the outcome. Large number of students told us that they learned, what they learned in that 2 months, 3 months process of from identifying to they couldn't learn in their entire 4 years of their academic. So they could learn more. One. Then they learn how to work in teams, how to do time management, then how to really conceptualize and develop a product. So starting from what should be software architecture, what should be the technology, who will do what, and how to execute in best possible in a limited time frame. So they learned all those skills. And because of that, their confidence level went up substantially. When we actually asked students that whether it helped in their employability also, they said that their employability went up more than 4 times. So for a student, if he was getting 1 offer, so now he started getting 4, 5, 6 offers, from companies. So it had this initiative had impact at multiple levels. More importantly, what we believe that those students got connected to our problems in the society. For example, if a student is solving problem for railways, and we had large number of students doing that, they will never poke a hole finger in while they are traveling in railway into the seat and try to make that big hole bigger, So they got sensitized towards that entire organization. They started getting connected to it. So we had multiple, and of course startups also came out of it. ISRO actually was so happy with some of the products. They said they hired all those as interns And they said, now work with us, we will give you 5 lakh, 10 lakh, whatever you want to develop that product. You just work for us, get that product developed, and get that product implemented with us. So it was really a very enriching experience.
Lovely. So I think that is what building the future is all about, right? Because these initiatives, I think it's the evolution of education. It's not just the evolution of education; it's the evolution of the student. I mean, like you said, he learned in those 2-3 periods more than what he could have done in the entire academic period. So tell me, I'm sure you must be privy to some of the like really top innovators. So would you want to, I'm sure it's unfair to pick out just 5 or 10 because that would be unfair, but would you like to talk about something which you thought was, wow, this is something which is really amazing?
So, as I said about ISRO, for example, ISRO had a lot of issues related to data security. And they wanted students to come up with new algorithms, new ways of maintaining that data security. And actually, 5 products came out of that. Then Ministry of Ayush was looking at tools or game-based systems which old age people can use who are in dementia and those kind of things. So they came up with those systems. Airport authority was looking at for airspace optimization. Those systems got developed. So many such systems got developed. I can go on and on and on. Because every sector is different.
Right.
And requirement of every sector is also different. But what good happened from this was that Prime Minister actually liked this initiative so much. So when he met in 2018, Prime Minister of Singapore, he said, why can't we do India-Singapore joint hackathon?
Wow.
And that initiative was actually liked by Prime Minister of Singapore. And we had now 2 editions of India-Singapore hackathon. And when we compared our students with the students against which we were competing from Singapore, our students were far, far better.
Nice.
And that time we realized that this is the soft strength or soft power which we have. And we need to showcase that. And when we shared this information with the Prime Minister's office, now Prime Minister has asked us to do hackathon for all ASEAN countries. So we have started working on that. So involving all 11 ASEAN countries, now it will be, and we hope that in coming September that hackathon, ASEAN hackathon will happen.
So your background is into bioinformatics, genomics, and today we are at the cusp of an insane technology jump, and synthetic biology I think is going to be playing a major role. There are people around the world who are working on redesigning the basic source code of life, the DNA, right? So that means we could with tools like CRISPR-Cas9 genetic editing system, you can actually
Create designer
yeah
babies.
snip out a specific
Yes.
DNA and maybe take out like if some person has got this maybe you could possibly take out the diseases out of the sickness could just go out of the human race, right? There are people like David Sinclair and Aubrey de Grey and Google's company offshoot which is called Calico, who are working on human longevity. They're talking about reverse aging. They're talking about possibly taking death out of the picture. So Aubrey de Grey says that death is a disease, and like any disease, it can be cured.
Right.
And we coming so close and close. This is being your specialty. Would you like to shine some light on this?
Yes, because I have worked in area of personalized medicine, personalized genomics. I'm aware of the capabilities of these technologies. I genuinely believe that they are still in a very nascent stage. It's not very easy to. It's easy to say these things, but getting into reality it's still far fetched. We are treating cancers based on personalized medicine. And when we say personalized medicine, what it means is that we go, we identify, we sequence the genome, we identify what are the changes in that genome, and based on those changes in that genome, you actually give the medicine. If two ladies have breast cancer, or they based on their DNA, they may get completely different medication, and they will respond also differently to each medication.
Right. Right.
So that is already a reality. Moving towards concepts like designer babies and so on and so forth, it's more of a media thing. But yes, with this data explosion, we are getting data at multiple levels, which we call as big biological data. We are getting data at genomic level, we are getting data at transcriptomic level, and we are getting also data at proteomic level and interactomic level also. And still, when I look at this space, we have not able to figure out how to overlay all these different layers of data on each other. Once we will actually figure out that, then this designer thing which you are talking about will be a reality. Because DNA is just a base, but everything what is there in DNA never gets translated into RNA, and then never gets further transcribed into proteins, So there is a very different level of, only certain level of information gets transferred from one level to another level. And if you have these two different kind of informations, then people still don't know how to overlay those informations on top of each other. And or if one level of information is there, how to actually go and backtrack. Basic sequence everyone knows, right? Basic sequence everyone knows. So for protein, one amino acid is coded by 3 or 4, 3 base pairs and those. So they know, but how that splicing is happening, how that. So those kind of things still are not very easy to, because I was trying to actually work in that area to explore how we can make sense of this big biological data. And whether we can get into something like a predictive. So my group is still working on it at Persistent Systems. But now I have moved on and I'm more focused on innovation and entrepreneurship and startup.
Lovely. So in the innovation and entrepreneurship and startups and the students, so you know what I mean. There's with your hackathons and things like that. I mean, if you see these reality shows, I mean, like a Dance India Dance or those India singing shows, the winners, after they get out, what happens is that I mean, they're left on their own. So is there any hand-holding which is being done post, like, if the winners are there, is there investor support? And because at times it can be very disorienting, because, suddenly a student has got this huge opportunity. He feels that, okay, I've taken over the world, but it's not always the case. So are you hand-holding?
So again, it's a very important question what you have asked. To some extent, we are trying to handhold.
Right.
So when the hackathon is done, we actually ask our winning teams to submit project proposals, to look into the further development of what they have done. And to some of the promising ideas, all ideas are not promising, but to some of the promising ideas, we as AICTE fund. So yes, a system is in place for funding these. So for software, we are funding initially of about 3 lakh rupees, a very small fund to actually ensure for 6 months. And for hardware, we are going somewhere up to 10 lakh rupees, because hardware is an expensive thing. It also has a small component for scholarships to these students, about 5,000 rupees for them to sustain. And we believe that if they do that thing properly, if they have a good product in place, then there are enough incubators in this country who can help and support these good ideas. So then they can actually take that incubator support.
Right.
Because incubator has these ecosystems, they have mentors, they have people who can help you how to design business plans and so on and so forth.
Right.
So we want these students, once that basic prototyping is done, we want these students to get into incubators, and we expect these incubator systems to take them forward.
Lovely, superb. So through my life journey, I've seen that industries at times die down because, like for example, my background is creative industry, right? So I see that now the music companies have these CEOs who've got no connection with the music or the creative industry, you know. And then sometimes the company falls down, goes bankrupt because there's no connection. I'm so very happy and glad that we have a chief innovation officer who's extremely connected with innovation and sees the importance of changing the education. And I somehow feel really good that, yes, I think in another couple of years we'll definitely see a global Indian company, and thanks to you. So what is your future vision? Is there anything that you would like to say to our listeners? Last words.
So for my focus is very clear. I want to ensure that a vibrant innovation ecosystem gets created or it's sustained in our higher educational institutions. If we have those systems in place, then things will take care of themselves automatically. Because if you see globally, great ideas are coming from educational institutes. Facebook came from Harvard.
Right.
Google came from Stanford.
Right.
Right? When our institutes and universities are going to produce these kind of ideas, we believe that once these ideas are out, once the and that, then and those and if institutes have vibrant systems, innovation ecosystems, then any idea can be easily taken forward. And if we can create such a few thousand islands of innovation ecosystem in this country, then they will take care of themselves, and we will certainly see great ideas getting converted into great companies from this country.
Lovely. On that note, thank you for joining us
Yes.
and sharing information. The future looks good, and things looks nice. I mean, the future of entrepreneurs, the student community is in good hands, and I'm very excited because the future is looking good. I mean, today the opportunity is abundant. Everything is out there. You could be sitting in a city, or you could be sitting in a rural area. All that you need is a small phone with internet connection, and then a desire to do something good. And I'm sure you'll figure out ways to be an entrepreneur and do things. So, like always, I'm going to leave behind all the social media links below, so that you can reach out to Mr. Jere, because this is about building a community and helping each other and growing the ecosystem. And if you like what you see, please press the subscribe button. And until next time, see you guys. Bye bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.